This is the Sales Babble Podcast, episode 518, the Tao of Storytelling Selling.
Welcome to Sales Babble, the podcast that shares selling secrets for non-sellers. And now your host, Pat Helmers.
Hello, Sales Babblers. It's Pat Helmers. This is the podcast that embraces the effortless action and Taoist style of non-pushy sales. Now, let me tell you a story, and it's not a story of lost love or intrigue. In this story, nobody gets murdered. Our society doesn't get thrust into some dystopian future. No, instead, this story is about stories. It's a story about showing, not telling, and selling with storytelling. That's right, storytelling selling. Now, this is a tale with both heroes and villains, with adventures and drama. The whole thing is tied into capturing the interest of prospects in some way that they can identify with this fable that you're telling them. What we're going to explore is ways that a personal story can turn a prospect into a hero and, in time, a loyal client. But before we start today's episode, make sure and subscribe to the podcast on whatever app that you're listening to, and also follow us on Facebook, X, and myself on LinkedIn. You can find links in the show notes. And now, with no further ado, I've got a story to tell you. And now today's chapter. The story breathes life into the unexplainable. It flows into places where prospects are quick to reject and think impossible. In framing, highlight the struggle. In sharing, go deep in the heart. In discussing obstacles, be gentle and kind. In speech, speak to the challenge. In overcoming, express the joy of success. In business, the protagonist becomes the hero. In action, watch the timing until prospects see a sliver of hope. And now today's story. Chris listened in on Pat's cold call recordings. Call after call, Pat would start telling success stories of happy clients. The stories were compelling, starting with the challenge the buyer faced, the unhappiness they experienced, what it was like rolling out the new solution, and the positive results that came. In all cases, the buyer was the hero of the story. Tale after tale was inspirational, authentic, and persuasive. Are these stories true? Asked Chris. They seem too good to be true. They are, responded Pat. It's heartwarming to know that we've been able to help so many clients, and it's fun to share the success stories. When prospects hear these tales, they immediately put themselves in the story and identify with the hero. They can feel the story in their bones. It's the story of their life. Really? Said Chris. Oh, yeah, replied Pat. Sometimes a story can say in a few words what a spec sheet would take an hour. When you share an authentic story, it will resonate. Learn the stories. Make them a part of you. Pass on the wisdom. That will create loyal clients. Now, the Tao Te Ching says, quote, "The highest good is like water. Water gives life to a million things, and it doesn't strive. It flows in places men reject, and so is like the Tao." The same's true of stories. A story can seep into a buyer's mind and flow to places no amount of logic or data is going to ever have a chance. Draw upon your existing customer successes as examples for new prospects. Practice sharing stories about how they became clients, and you should be able to tell these stories both quickly or slowly, matching whatever the pace is of the prospects. Give them space to ask questions, especially questions prompted by the story. Because once they identify with your clients, that's the first step for them to become a new client someday. Now, to download a copy of this week's chapter of the Tao of Sales Babble, you can find it in the show notes at salesbabble.com. And while you're there, you can sign up for a brief weekly newsletter with links to the podcast sent conveniently to your inbox. Next, if you could do me a favor and share this episode with a friend who's also interested in growing their selling skills, that would really be great, because word of mouth is the premier way of growing our sales community. And if you've got any questions about sales, don't hesitate to reach out. Click the Babble Me link on the website, or if you look me up on LinkedIn, I'm easy to find there too. You can message me there. I'd love to help. With that said, I just want to take a moment to thank you for all your support. Thank you for listening to this podcast. It fills my heart to know that I'm helping your business, making your life a little bit better, because I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. With that said, until next Tuesday, take care and have a highly successful and a profitable selling day.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Babble podcast. Find us at www.salesbabble.com.
This is a production of Habanero Media.